So the latest Pokemon ZA trailer gave us a bunch of new information about the game, but there is a lot of stuff, particularly pertaining to the information that we got in this latest trailer, that they are not telling us about Pokemon Legends ZA. And in this video, I'm going to be going over a few things from this latest trailer where there is more to it than what is being told and shown to us. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is none other than Mega Dragonite. Mega Dragonite made a pretty big splash when it was first revealed, and it seems like to this point, its design is pretty divisive. There are a lot of people who like it, but there's also a lot of people who really dislike it at the same time, and they say it looks too goofy and other things like that. I personally am not the biggest fan of it myself, but when I looked a little more into it, it actually has a really clever design origin that makes me appreciate it a lot more. Mega Dragonite is most likely based on, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, the Catechus. The Catechus is a rod, and it's also widely known as a symbol that features a rod with two serpents surrounding it. And also there are a pair of wings at the top of this rod as well. This very clearly, in relation to Mega Dragonite, makes a ton of sense as far as its origin goes, because the two serpents that surround this rod clearly represent Dratini and Dragonair as Dragonite's pre-evolutions. And then the pair of wings at the top of this rod represent the pair of wings that Mega Dragonite gets on the top of its head. The Catechus within mythology is also a literal staff that is carried by Hermes, who is famously known for his pair of winged sandals, which Dragonite basically has as well, as it has its own pair of small wings that are connected to its legs toward its ankles, further solidifying the connection between the two. Hermes is also described as a protector, very much like Dragonite, and, spoiler warning, he also originates from Greek mythology, and the word on the street is that Generation 10 is going to feature a region that is based on Greece. So introducing a new Mega Evolution with Greek origins in the game that precedes Generation 10 makes a whole lot of sense in terms of the thematics of where Pokemon is right now and where it is going to be going in the near future. And who knows, maybe this Greek origin could also mean something as far as the involvement of the new Mega Evolutions in the new potential Greek Gen 10 region. Another thing that I've already kind of touched on a little bit already, but not to this degree, is the fact that Corbeau, the newly introduced antagonistic character, is most likely, but personally I would say most assuredly, related to Kieran and Carmine. I talked about Corbeau previously in that his attire seemed to be directly based on Pheasantipity because it's got all of the same colors to it, right down to the exact shades, and he's even got some direct similarities in terms of his physical features, with the little dangly things on his glasses resembling the eyelashes of Pheasantipity. Well, when you take that into consideration, and then also just look at Kieran and Corbeau straight up side by side, they already look extremely similar to one another. They also have the same color of eyes, and then when you also factor in the other obvious connection to Pheasantipity, it seems essentially confirmed that these two are related to each other, especially because he also specializes in poison-type Pokemon, and Peturunt, who is heavily involved with Kieran, is also a poison-type, and Kieran's grandma/grandpa, one of the two, uses an Arbok when you battle them in the Mochi Mayhem storyline in Scarlet and Violet, and we also see Corbeau use an Arbok as well. So as far as I'm concerned, this is basically confirmed that this is a thing. This is an observation that I can't necessarily claim myself because I've seen a number of other people pick up on it already, but it obviously is super significant and interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see if any of this is alluded to within ZA or within Corbeau's character. And really quick, if you are enjoying all of these recent ZA videos, a great way to help support the channel is by checking out my merch store and picking something up. We've got plushies, we've got trading cards, you can even go to my Patreon as well and get free trading cards by becoming a member there on top of all the other benefits that are offered there too. So there are a bunch of really cool ways to support the channel and get some awesome merch at the same time. I really love the Folkachi plush, the Narwade plush, the cards are super cool. There's really not a wrong way to go, so be sure to check that out with the links in the description. It means a lot. Thanks to everyone who has supported so far, and now back to the video. There are also other relative characters to be had within Legends ZA as well that just got revealed in this latest trailer. One of them is basically a sure thing, and then the other one, which I'm going to get into a little bit later, is a little less sure, but it is really compelling and interesting, so I'm really excited to get into that. First, though, I wanted to talk about Lida, because Lida is definitely like the younger sister or cousin or something like that of Tierno, because these two share basically the exact same design, just reworked in the case of Lida. They share the exact same color palette, they also have a similar hairstyle, and they both have the trait of being dancers. So this one is, like I said, basically a sure thing, and I know I have mentioned it in a previous video, but this is the kind of thing that they didn't tell us in the trailer, they haven't mentioned it on the website, but it clearly is a thing that makes Lida all the more interesting of a character, and this is the kind of stuff that I feel like Legends ZA is going to be full of, and I'm just really excited to explore more of it once we actually get the game. Now for the other character that, like I said, is a little bit less sure, but still really compelling and interesting, is Naveen. Naveen, at first glance, does not seem like a character who has any direct relative that we know of, and that very well could be the case, but I did want to propose the idea that he could potentially be a relative of Marshall from the Unova Elite Four. The reason for this is because when you compare them side by side, they actually have a lot of similarities to one another. So first off, they do have similar skin tones that do kind of help to line them up with one another, but then where it starts to get really compelling is in the fact that a lot of their design traits actually match up perfectly with each other. If we take a look at Naveen, he's got a lot of orange and then some green in his design, which matches up perfectly with Marshall, who also has the same thing. And then if we look at Marshall, he's also got this white jacket, vest if you prefer, with the collar flipped up. If we go back to Naveen, he essentially has the same thing, a white jacket with the collar flipped up. And then we can also take it a step further from there, because Naveen's partner Pokemon is a Scraggy, which is a Unova Pokemon, which is exactly where Marshall comes from. And Marshall is also a fighting type specialist, with Scraggy being a fighting type Pokemon. And then lastly, something that is admittedly a little bit silly, but it did catch my attention, so I did want to bring it up, is the fact that if you look at Marshall, one of the key features of his design are his big, baggy orange pants. If we take that and compare it to Naveen's signature Pokemon, Scraggy, what is the key feature of Scraggy's design? It's shedding skin that it wears like a big, baggy pair of orange pants. So, like I said, while I don't exactly feel like this is a 100% surefire thing like with Lida and Corbeau, I do at the same time feel like it is pretty compelling. And personally, if that was revealed to be the case, that Marshall is Naveen's dad or his grandpa or something like that, I honestly would not be surprised at all with this evidence. And honestly, it would be really cool, so I do really hope that is the case. Something else about another character that isn't quite as deep and compelling, but is still a pretty cool feature, has to do with Emma. If you take a close look at Emma, in her new design you can see that she's got this gold, almost an eye-looking hair clip in her hair, which looks pretty nice, but it actually has an extra meaning as well, because it's a direct tie to her signature Pokemon, Esper. If you take a close look at Esper in-game, whenever it lifts up its ears, you can see that it actually has some golden circles underneath them, which is exactly what this golden hair clip of Emma's is in reference to. So it's actually a really cool Easter egg to her own signature Pokemon. A huge question that this latest Legend ZA trailer brought up is, where in the heck is Professor Sycamore? We got to essentially meet who seems to be the professor of this game, which is Mabel, a former Team Flare admin, and she's also operating out of Sycamore's laboratory, with him noticeably absent. On top of that, it also makes mention of the fact that Mabel is the acting director of the Pokemon Research Lab that Sycamore formerly was in charge of. The key word here is also acting director. It didn't say she leads this lab or that she is the director, it said that she's the acting director, which basically means that she is temporarily filling in for whoever was the director before her, which obviously would have to be Sycamore. So this also kind of implies that Sycamore is on a leave or a hiatus of some kind, which forced Mabel to temporarily step in his place. And that kind of just makes the mystery of where Sycamore could be all the more interesting, because it seems like his absence isn't just the result of time passing, but it seems to be a key and intentional feature of this game. Mabel is here as a temporary replacement because Sycamore is in fact actually off somewhere, either on a leave or a hiatus, or he is doing something that required him to be away. And if it is indeed that kind of an intentional situation for his character, that tells me that it probably is going to factor into the story in some way, and we could potentially see him appear later on, which really has me all the more interested in terms of where he is actually located and what he is up to. And if you guys have any ideas about what he could be up to, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And another thing that they literally have not told us about Pokemon Legends ZA is whether or not we are going to have ride Pokemon in this game. Ride Pokemon have been a pretty key feature of the last couple Pokemon games, including the last Legends game, but to this point they have been nowhere to be seen. Now, the fact that they have not been mentioned at all to this point could leave some to believe that they're not going to be in this game, but the reason why I bring it up anyway is because I would be genuinely flummoxed, flabbergasted, and just generally bamboozled if ride Pokemon were not present in this game in any way whatsoever. And the reason why is the fact that ride Pokemon as a modern feature as we know it today started in Pokemon X and Y, and its marquee moment is in Lumiose City when you get to ride around on Go-Goat. So the fact that X and Y introduced this thing as a concept and made such a big deal about it, and it was in particular a big deal in Lumiose City, it just doesn't make any sense to me that ride Pokemon would not be present in this game in any way whatsoever. So with that said, I just feel like we haven't seen it to this point, and it will most likely be there to some kind of degree. We have seen how the player character uses a teleportation machine to get up on top of the buildings, and then uses their Rotom phone to also jump between the rooftops, so we're probably not going to have a Pokemon that's just climbing all over the buildings, but we could still have a number of ride Pokemon that allow you to travel faster around the city, like with a Go-Goat or something like that. And we could also have other Pokemon as well that maybe allow you to traverse water, which I think will still be a thing in this game. And we also could potentially have a Pokemon that allows us to glide over the city later in the game, similar to what we saw with Braviary in Legends Arceus. In fact, the soaring mechanic was also a key introduction in Generation 6, with Mega Latios and Latios acting as our soaring partner. And since we most likely can say that every Mega Evolution is going to be in this game, and that would naturally include Mega Latios and Latios, the fact that they will be there and this was a thing back in Gen 6 leads me to believe that it would just be hard to pass that up entirely as a feature, and we could even see these two reprise their roles as our soaring partner once again. So, to put it simply, we have not been told that ride Pokemon are going to be a thing yet, but I do still believe there is a compelling case for it to be in the game, and I do still think that we will see a presence of it once we actually get more information on the game and once the game releases. What do you guys think, though? Be sure to let me know your thoughts on all of these things in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed as well, and thanks so much for watching. I will be back with another video very soon as well, so be sure to stay tuned for more, and until then, as always, thanks again so much for watching, and I will smell you guys later.